Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Probe Dental Podcast. We're joined today by Linda Giles. She's a chartered accountant and founder at Ross Brooke Dental Chartered Accountants. How are you doing this afternoon, Linda?
Good, thank you.
So I was wondering if you could begin. We've got a survey that Which recently revealed to discuss in a bit, but I was wondering if you could begin by introducing everybody to yourself and Ross Brooke.
Okay, thank you, James. Yes, my name's Linda Giles. I'm the founding partner of what is now known as Ross Brooke Dental. I've been working with dental clients for in excess of 30 years now, and some of my clients have actually worked with throughout that whole period, which is a very rewarding experience for well, they say for them, but also for me. I was fed up effectively after qualifying as an accountant doing auditing, wanted to do something where I could make a difference, and got a job working with one of the then specialist dental accountancy firms. And I really sort of found my feet there and really found that it was good to be making a difference to people and working with a very, what I consider to be an exciting and dynamic profession. And so over the years, I've built the business up on the back of a small portfolio of clients that I've been working with from that first job, running my own practice, initially sort of single-handed with a couple of part-time teammates supporting me. And then 5 years ago, I joined Ross Brooke, a local firm of chartered accountants. So I share offices with them and we can tap into their resources when we need them. My colleague Nathan Poole joined me 4 years ago. We'd previously worked together in a previous existence at Dental Business Solutions many years ago. So between us, we've close on 50 years experience advising just dentists. And we pride ourselves on doing a good job with the accounts and tax, but we like to get really involved with the practice and the client's business development and personal planning.
I'm just curious. So you specialise in accountancy for dentists specifically, for dentistry. Yeah. What makes it so sort of unique when compared to other areas?
Okay. Well, I think we're fortunate in that obviously having chosen to just have clients within the dental profession, we are firstly, we've obviously got to learn a lot about another profession. We probably know more about dentistry as a profession than we do about the accountancy profession, obviously other than the technical side. But obviously we're dealing with a very educated and potentially financially sound section of the population, and getting an insight into the challenges those professionals face and how we can help them. It just makes it more interesting than just doing the numbers. The numbers are important and they're very much at the base of what we do, but it's very much about getting to understand the client's business, using our experience of other clients who've had successes with certain things, to sort of help challenge people and steer them in the right direction, so that the business is continually evolving and hopefully delivering them the right work-life balance and the right financial reward.
Fantastic. Well, if anybody is interested, we'll include some links in the episode description.
Okay, thank you.
So, Which magazine recently revealed the results of a dental survey they'd conducted. You actually brought this to our attention as well, so thank you very much for that. It made for some, very insightful reading. It sort of mentioned that 9 out of 10 of their respondents said they would recommend their practice. It was all quite positive. So, with regards to that data, I mean, what would you recommend that practices be doing?
Okay, well, I think the reason I decided to comment on the article was that it's quite unusual to be reading anything in the media about dentistry that's positive in the general media, because it's normally all doom, gloom and despair. Quite often to do with access issues, which obviously is an issue for the NHS and continues to be, but also around price and why it's so expensive, etc. So it was actually nice to pick up something and think, actually, you know, this is worth reading because somebody here has gone out there and looked and thought there's positives to report. And I don't think many of our practices would be surprised to know that the majority of their patients would recommend them, but I don't think they're necessarily taking full advantage of that. Interestingly, around the same time, I read an article, I can't remember where it was, but it seemed very similar, to say that a number of people felt they saw their dentist more regularly than their GP these days, and really saw them as someone they could confide in about health issues. So I think in a way, this article was presenting dentists as a very important person for people in terms of their healthcare. And but what we find is that practices perhaps lack confidence in sort of understanding that their patients do value them, and perhaps need to find out why they value them. What are the reasons for those people saying, yeah, we would recommend them? What would they recommend? And I think Which did explore that in a bit more detail. And so, a couple of the points were interesting and not surprising, in that they said that the main thing that people were still concerned about, even though they would recommend their dentist, was lack of clarity and transparency about fees. And obviously that is still an issue, even though this is an article that's very positive about dentistry. And so I think the challenge that we would say to our clients is, let's work out what the fees need to be, and then help you and your team be confident about explaining to patients why the fees are what they are, and also being open and upfront about the fees. Because as a consumer of anything, none of us like to be in a position where we don't know. We're sitting there in the dentist chair, or we're in a shop where you can't see the price labels, and we're worried then, because it might be something that's scary. And what the dentists need to do is actually take away that feel of worry and say, look, yes, you come in, this is what we're going to do today, this is the cost, there's other things need doing, these are the costs, these are the options, these are the payment plans we have in place. And just be more transparent about that, which comes with confidence about their offering.
Do you think there is a lack of confidence, particularly with some of the access crisis? And obviously you touched on some of the negative news you see, particularly where people haven't been able to have access, or not to NHS dentistry at least. And you see stories of horror stories of angry patients kicking off at the receptionists and the front of house staff.
I mean, we do feel very much that the team is so crucial in a successful practice, but it's down to the business owners to obviously train them and involve them in understanding what the business is about, and why the costs are what they are, and how to present options to patients, how to deal with objections. The typical question, do you do NHS? Well, rather than just saying no, saying at the moment we don't have any availability, however, and then confidently explain the options, and perhaps break down that perception that private dentistry is always prohibitively expensive. It's because people don't know. And if you don't know, you can build up a problem that might not be there. That's not saying that it's affordable for everybody, and we completely accept that, and we know that there are some fabulous NHS practices out there really doing their best to maintain provision, but it's a limited resource, and there's not enough to go around, and it's not perhaps targeted at the people that need it at the moment, which is opportunity therefore for the private practices. But they need to do it well. They need to make the patients understand why the costs are what they are, and be open about those, so that they can make an informed purchasing decision.
That's right. I think I believe you mentioned as well, sort of in your response to the Which survey, it touched on comparing NHS to private dentistry, and reiterated the fact that it's more about just costs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously there is this perception, and I'm sure it is true generally, that on most occasions private dentistry will cost more than NHS dentistry. That's why we've got this lack of provision of NHS dentistry. If it was funded to cover the cost, more dentists would be delivering it, and you know, we wouldn't have this situation. But that doesn't really seem to be being addressed politically. If it's got to be a limited resource, maybe it needs to be changed so that it is only targeted at people that really need it, and then everybody else will be choosing where they get their dentistry and how much they pay for it. But the which article I think recommended or encouraged people to shop around on the basis of cost. But again, we'd advise caution there, because like anything, whatever you're buying, rarely do you buy the cheapest.
No.
Do you know what I mean? You know, you just, I don't know, you need I was looking at something this morning for my son, a rain cover for his bike, which he's storing outside. And you look and, you know, you can get one for £6.99, you can get one for £100. So, you know, and it's the same with dentistry, is that private dentistry is provided in very different guises. In just like anything, do you go for you know, to a restaurant where you pay £25 for your meal and it's probably completely fine, but that's your decision, or do you pay £50 or £100? You're going to make that decision depending on what your perception is, what you're getting. And so I think, sort of generally speaking, articles that say, why does you know, we went into a practice in Bristol and you know, a filling cost £50, and then, you know, 2 miles away in a different part of Bristol it was £125. That's outrageous. Well, that's not the full story. You need to actually look and see, what are you getting? How long are you going to be in the practice? What techniques are they going to use? What will the whole service experience be? And I think that people just, as a patient, most of us join a practice and we stay there unless they really upset us or we move away. We have the very sort of fortunate position of having visited many dental practices, which is part of the fun of the job in a way, because every practice is so different, and hence the patient experience and what they will receive in each practice is so different. And I think it's about practices being very clear about making sure the whole team know what they're about and what they're trying to achieve, and they will ultimately then attract the type of patients that are looking for that particular style of service. So it's
perfect.
The
so same thing that they should be offering, well, you know, would ideally be offering to their patients as well.
Yes.
I mean, I know I've kind of been with, you know, kind of one practice and not had any issues, and
so you'll probably keep going, but you know no different as to whether what you might get if you went somewhere else. And I'm not suggesting you should go anywhere else, but I think it's just that the dentists perhaps need to constantly be aware of that and be aware of their competition and be very clear about what it is they're offering and why it's worth the patients paying that. And I think in a way the best compliment you could have is probably for somebody to say, you know, you're not cheap, but you're worth it.
Yeah.
Because then they are valuing what you do, and they recognise that maybe they could get it cheaper, but it wouldn't be the same.
That's right. I would say you have to let me know how it goes with the bike cover. I take it you haven't gone for the £6.99.
I haven't, and I haven't actually made the decision yet, but it was just a good example, because you just look and you think that's a huge range. So I'm going to read the reviews. So I suppose this brings it back to, again, what practices can do. They could be reading reviews. What are the patients saying? Because that's what I will do in trying to make my informed decision about the bike cover.
I think I would almost be tempted to give the £6.99 one a punt at that price, and then just, you know, cut my losses,
and then you could just say, yeah, okay, it was a waste of time, or money.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And we'll we'll also link to the article as well you released in response to the Which survey. So anyone listening or watching, you can find that below. But no, it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you. It's a Friday afternoon as we speak, and the sun is shining. So have you got a good weekend planned ahead?
Well, yeah, it's Mother's Day, isn't it, on Sunday? So I mean, my boys are grown up now, but he's still the mum, aren't you? Well, thank you very much. And obviously, if you want to have any further discussions, there's both myself and Nathan who I can introduce you to, and we're always happy to have a chat with anybody without any sort of charge or obligation about, you know, things they might need to be doing. So thank you.
Perfect. But anybody listening or watching, you can find Linda's details below as well. So yeah, no, thank you very much.